Yeah. Okay, let's fix this then. Fix this then. We'll fix this in post. Okay. Okay, so let me start over. I'm definitely editing this afterwards. Uh, okay, so the game was actually playing the audio, even though I took it out. But okay. So let's just start fresh. We have plenty of time. So welcome to Muso Monday. I am your host, Mika Karazarel, and with us we have the official Muso Monday mascot, Sankyu-san. There is a giveaway in the raffle. Use 39 to enter. It is the game called Rogue Heroes. And the game running in the background that was being naughty is the game I wanted to talk about. So let me try this again. I ordered from AliExpress for the first time ever. It was a console, a mini fake console called the it's a minigame console called the Super Console X. It is essentially a Raspberry Pi with a fake Chinese knockoff SNES mini case running RetroArch emulators under an MULEC UI and wrapper. And on it, I was able to play this game. This, what you're looking at in the background, is a game called Agony. Agony is a game that has not been ported to anything. There is only the Amiga 500 version. There is no AGA version. There is no 600 version. There's no hard drive version. There's no CD-TV version. There is no CD32 port. There isn't even an Atari ST version of this game, which is rare when it comes to Amiga games. And this is despite the fact that it was published by probably the biggest European publisher we have ever had. Think about that. But there is a reason why Agony will never ever come back. Because other games that were considered timeless Amiga classics, like, just look at this game, it's so beautiful. And you also heard some of the music, which is, hardcore, like really good stuff. Made by Jeroen Tel. And if you know anything about Jeroen Tel, you will know him from, all of the Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, all of those. Like, he did the music for, like, all of them. So, pretty big name there. This game looks impressive graphically. Yeah, keep in mind that this game was made on a computer that came out in 1987 on a 1.4 megabyte single floppy disk. That is what this game is running on. Okay, so now that the introductions is over, let's talk a little bit about this game. So Agony, as the title says, is the game that lost everything. And what does that actually entail? Well, Agony is never gonna get a port because of how it lost everything. How do you port or remaster a classic, timeless classic game from the Amiga era when the title of the game was stolen by an indie developer that made one of the most infamous horror games out there, also called Agony? How do you bring the game back when the box art is being used by a fantasy author for the book The Tower of Fear, and the author is more famous than the game is? How do you bring back a game when the main character became the logo the company logo of one of the biggest European publishers we've ever had. And those guys got ate up by Sony. How do you get the game back when the theme song was stolen by a Norwegian metal band that is more famous than the game is? How do you remaster this game? How do you get all of those things back? This game has lost its main character to Psygnosis. It lost its theme song to Dimmu Borgir. It lost its cover art to Glenn Cook, the fantasy author. It lost its title to an infamous game also called Agony that is currently on Steam. How do you recover from that? So apparently, playing this game just made me sad because the game is really fucking good and it's never ever coming back because other people in the business stole everything that this game had to offer. And all of them are now more well known than the game itself where they stole their shit from. Now, for once, I'm gonna... time to read the comments. Hey Dan, these old programmers with limiting computers were doing crazy stuff graphically. Oh yeah, they were. The European demo scene had competitions where they would try to do graphics with, like, they had whole categories where, like, say, make the most impressive demo that you possibly can using only 1 megabyte of memory. And then there was a category below that, what was make the best, most impressive demo reel that you can with only 500 kilobytes. And if you were really hardcore, try to make 3D with 100 kilobytes and nothing else. So, the Amiga had some of the most hardcore programmers that you will ever find. There is actually a group from back then that made that I actually recognized as, like, they did demo discs, which was basically them showing off, like doing FMVs, doing special effects, like making something that looks like Doom running on the Amiga 500, or like Mode 7 running on a machine from 87. Those guys were called Fairlight. And they came back to do a game that has been on PlayStation Plus on behalf of Sony called Bound. That game is one of those games where the developers are just showing off for the sake of showing off. Look at some screenshots for PS4 game Bound and realize that that game is running at 60 frames per second at all times. It doesn't matter what you do. The game just refuses to go below 60 frames, and it has like 1 billion fucking polygons on the screen at all times. Just the entire background is just moving constantly. And they're like, yeah, we had a couple of ideas. We wanted to use motion capture for the main character. We want everything in the background to move on beat in time with the music that plays in the background. And we want the game to run at 1080p at 60 frames per second at all times. And we can do that because we're fucking crazy. We're crazy German programmers that know this shit like the back of our hands, because this is all we've been doing for the last 30 years. Optimization is a hobby. That's insane. I like it. Looks better than Donkey Kong Country 1 with half the computing power. Oh yeah. Like, look at this artwork. This is just a loading screen. More animated than Donkey Kong Country? I don't think so, actually. But yeah. So yeah, I played through this game on my Super Console X for the first time, and amazingly, the game, when I was playing this as a kid, I was like 10 or 12 maybe. I struggled to get past the first stage. And I played it now after I did shit like Darius, Darius, and other retro shooters like Thundercross. And playing the first stage now, I like got through that shit on the first try. Didn't lose a single life. And second stage, same. I died on the third stage to the boss because we both killed each other. Same thing happened on the fourth boss, and then there's the fifth boss, which is the final boss. Where I used up my remaining lives. Actually, since the game is running in the background, we can talk a little bit about like how the game actually works. This is just a playthrough that I got off of YouTube that had a proper frame rate and a version of the game that doesn't have audio glitches or visual glitches because it's running on original hardware. The way this game actually works is that you have this owl. His name is Alestis, and he's also known as the Psygnosis Company logo. If you're unfamiliar with Psygnosis, that's okay because they no longer exist. What happened to them was that they were a big-ass publisher in Europe. The biggest publisher we've ever had by like such a huge margin, it's not even a contest. It was them and everybody else. And even, let's just put it like this. Psygnosis in Europe, as a publisher, were so big that at the height of their bigness, they were responsible for publishing 40% of all games that were released in Europe. 40% by themselves. So when I say it was them and everybody else, I mean it was they released half the games, almost half the games in Europe. And everybody else together released the other half. Now, they were really, really good friends with Sony. They were actually good friends with everybody, including other European developers such as Bitmap Brothers that did Speedball 2. They did Chaos Engine and other like famous games. They were such good friends with them that they lived like across the street from each other and would like borrow each other's equipment because Psygnosis was also into making games themselves. And the developers of this game, oh yeah, the developers of this game also lost their name to Industrial Light and Magic, the legendary fucking special effects team. You've probably seen a movie that they were involved in. Like, for example, Star Wars. They worked on that. So, you know, pretty big. And they were such good friends with everybody that Sony actually asked them for advice when they were making the PS1. And the Psygnosis, being the, well, cool people that they are, they actually had suggestions for the architecture of how the PlayStation 1 should work to be developer friendly. So they actually gave some suggestions, and then they made a little tech demo to show off how good they are. And that little tech demo was a little known game called Wipeout, the original Wipeout. They used that to convince Sony to use the architecture that they suggested. Sony were pretty pleased with Wipeout. It became... It's Psygnosis input is one of the reasons why the PS1 had so many launch titles on day one, and that so many of them were actually pretty good. So that's how influential these guys were. And that's why you know, they took Alestis, this main character, and put it in their logo. That's why that's never coming back, because, yeah. However, I said that Psygnosis aren't around anymore. Why is that? Well, the simple story is that Psygnosis was the big-ass publisher responsible for 40% of all published games in Europe. And Sony, being super pleased with them and their suggestions on the PS1 hardware, decided, hey, we want to keep these guys close, so we're just gonna buy them. Just buy the whole company outright. Like, you'll be a first-party developer now. You guys are cool. You have connections everywhere. You're friends with everyone. We could really use that to dominate the console wars. And Psygnosis were a bit, yeah, we kind of want to maintain some of our independence, though, because, you know, we can't just... We kind of have a thing going here, so, you know, we want some independence. So Sony was like, okay, fine. If that will make you sign the papers, you can have your independence. You can still publish your own games. And Psygnosis were like, cool. So what ended up happening was that the thing that actually killed them was that Psygnosis, they were so fucking good at their job, making money, publishing games, that what got them killed was actually that Sony found out that Psygnosis were publishing games on behalf of Sega in Europe to make extra money. And they were like, Sony looked at Psygnosis and they were like, what the actual hell do you think you're doing? You're publishing games on behalf of the enemy, Sega. We're trying to put those assholes out of business. Why are you helping them? And Psygnosis producers were like, you know, we're taking their money and, you know, making money off of them. How is that a bad thing? Sony were like, yeah, but you're still paying them royalties for licenses. They're only... So the only reason that Sega had a chance in Europe at all is because you guys were helping them. That stops now. So Sony decided to, like, yeah, you're no longer independent. We're gonna take everything from you. You're gonna do what you're told. So that was the end of Psygnosis. They got done in by the fact that they were so good at their job that they were making money off the competition, and Sony couldn't handle that. So that's how Psygnosis ended. Not with a whimper, but with a bang. Yeah. Psygnosis were like, yeah, we like money. We're making money off of the competition. But Sony saw a problem, but you're also making money for the competition. We're winning this war. They're only hanging on partially because you assholes are helping them. So, as we come into the last stage, I'm gonna talk a little bit about how this game actually works. So, it's a standard side-scrolling shooter, but you've already seen that there's more to it than that. So the way this actually works is that you control Alestis the way you would control any other shooter. You move up and down and you shoot, and then you can collect power-ups. Which makes, if you collect a power-up, the beam that you shoot will become bigger. And also do more damage. Also, check out this fucking background. It's so pretty. But yeah, you see this wave beam? It becomes bigger, and it does more damage. So this can happen twice. It can grow in size 2 times. Then after that, you will start collecting, instead of additional power-ups, any additional power-ups will become swords, which you can see above and below Alestis here. And the swords act sort of like options from the Gradius games, but they won't shoot. They will, however, hurt enemies that run into them. So you see how certain enemies, when they go through the swords, they actually die? It does continual damage as long as the enemies are touching the swords, so you can use them as cover. And once you have both swords, the first one will appear above you, the second one will appear below you. The power-ups change again, and any additional power-ups that you get will give you a random spell. And there's a whole list of spells. I do believe there's 10 of them. And you can use them whenever you want, such as there's one spell that turns you invincible for 10 seconds. There is a spell that freezes time for, I believe it's 12 seconds, which makes boss fights like actually kind of easy because they're just going to sit there while you shoot them in the face. We'll see this when the final boss actually appears. And there are additional power-ups, such as there's a giant, like a 4th upgrade to your weapon that makes you shoot these giant-ass plasma bolts that's even bigger. They're like easily 3 times the size of the weapon you're currently using. It covers like basically the whole screen. You're gonna use a power-up here. That's an example, this fire wheel. You might remember that from, or recognize that from Ninja Gaiden, which came out, at least in Europe. I think it came out in, like, the year before this. Hello, Arya. How are you today? I'm just talking about this game that is playing in the background called Agony, and how it's the game that lost everything. It lost the title, lost the main character, lost the theme song, lost the developer name, and sadly, it's never gonna get a remake because of that. Oh yeah, this section is super tricky. Couldn't get it. How am I doing? I'm streaming, so that's pretty good. This is the last boss coming up. He's gonna use the invincibility and just get in the boss's face. The boss is called Mentor. There's actually gonna be a point to all of this when you see the ending. That's why I went out of my way to tell the story of Psygnosis. Now, check out this ending, now that we have talked about it. Congratulations, you defeated Mentor. What do you get? The spirit of Acanthopsis emerges and gives you the scroll that reveals the secret of cosmic strength and world creation. And what does video game developers that use the main character as their company logo do? They literally create worlds with their games. And that is the backstory of the Psygnosis Owl that creates worlds because it's the company logo for the biggest publisher and video game developer that the EU has ever had. And this game is never coming back because Sony put them in the grave because they were too good at what they did. And Sony didn't like how they were making money off of publishing Sega games, who was their nemesis. Sony was more concerned about putting Sega out of business than they were with, you know, making money off of them by publishing Sega's own games. And that's the story of Agony, the game that will never come back because it lost everything to people that were more famous and more well-known than this game will ever be. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Now, let's play some Samurai Warriors 4 Empires, which is what we're here for. This ending is just gonna loop, so